The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Okay, a lot of news from over the weekend. First, let's just get this out of the way so we can deal with the data and then move on to some other stories. Donald Trump has made pretty significant headway in the polls over the last week. We don't spend a lot of time on this. We like to check in with the polls once or so a week. Let's start, as we often do, first just with our actual polling data, which I will show you here from Real Clear Politics. You will see that in the polls in which Hillary Clinton is leading, in many she is now leading only by 1, 2, or a tie. Donald Trump is leading in that one recent CNN ORC poll. And if you look at the trend lines on the graph, the red line representing Donald Trump climbing and the blue line representing Hillary Clinton declining. Let's now check out the 538 election forecast, which predicts the chance that each candidate has of ultimately winning in November. Nate Silver's 538 has it at roughly 70% chance for Hillary Clinton, 30% chance for Donald Trump. And a lot of this really hinges on some of those swing states, which in all of these maps, you see Ohio and Florida sort of flipping back and forth between leaning one way or the other. The New York Times has a feature called The Upshot. They also have a similar sort of assessment of the chance of winning. And on that one, you will see that Hillary Clinton currently at 80%, Trump 20%. So better numbers for Hillary Clinton in the New York Times Upshot than on Nate Silver's 538. But still, what you do see is that those numbers have decreased for Hillary Clinton and increased for Donald Trump, sort of since the start of September and the last few days of October. What about the electoral vote map prediction based on state polling? So instead of looking at national polling, we say, okay, Massachusetts state polling has Hillary ahead, so we will fill in the map blue and sort of repeat that for 50 states and see who comes out ahead. This graphic is from, no, I skipped one. This is the right one, yes. So this is a graphic which explores the most likely electoral vote totals for Hillary Clinton. Of course, you need 270 to win. Any scenario which has Hillary Clinton above 270 means Hillary Clinton wins. Any scenario which has Hillary Clinton below 270 means Donald Trump wins. Now, as you can see, the scenarios are heavily clustered around 340 or so electoral votes for Hillary Clinton. That is very aggressive. There is no doubt that that would be a major win for Hillary Clinton. But we will see if the electoral vote predictions change. And then lastly, now we will go to the electoral-vote.com map and show you that currently electoral-vote.com, which is a great website that's been around for at least 3 or 4 election cycles, currently has only Florida tied. Every other state they have for either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. Their prediction based on state-by-state polling as of today, September 12th, is Hillary Clinton 306, Donald Trump 203. Certainly less favorable for Hillary Clinton than what the New York Times has. And I also want to show you a paths to victory chart. This is super interesting. The New York Times, and you can check out all of this stuff on NewYorkTimes.com. The New York Times has set up sort of like a hierarchy tree, which examines different scenarios, starting with if Hillary Clinton wins Florida, you can look at a number of scenarios there. And if Donald Trump wins Florida, and then you can say, okay, if Hillary Clinton wins Florida, but loses Pennsylvania, what scenarios are there? The summary of this graph is that Hillary Clinton has 903 paths to victory, whereas Donald Trump has only 111 paths to victory based on what is going on in swing states, right? Doesn't make sense to do a scenario where Hillary loses Massachusetts because Hillary's not going to lose Massachusetts. So that is that. And I think I may have ended up going out of order with some of these, but I think at this point we have covered every graphic that I wanted to cover. So what's the message here? The message is those who are saying it's over and Hillary has it won. Well, I don't think so. Those who are saying Trump is surging and is right in this thing and has as good of a chance as Hillary Clinton to win, well, I don't think so. The consensus is over the last week to 10 days, Donald Trump has absolutely closed in on Hillary Clinton's lead, but he's got a long way to go. And when we look at historical data, the predominant leader in post-convention August and into September typically does win in November. Anecdotally, there were polls in 2008 at this time that had John McCain ahead. He ultimately lost. So is that fail-safe? Is it foolproof? No, it's not. But these are the facts, and we will see what happens. And of course, the Hillary Clinton health situation, which I am not going to ignore, as many of my favorite trolls on Twitter have suggested I would be doing over the weekend. That could be a factor. We will be talking about that. We will be talking about a lot of different issues today. The next issue, though, that I want to talk about now is what is an unmistakable, undeniable error that Hillary Clinton has made. Hillary Clinton is being criticized for recently telling a room full of donors that about half of all Donald Trump supporters are part of the, quote, basket of deplorables. Certainly creative use of language, although possibly a politically erroneous statement. Let's look first at exactly what Hillary Clinton said.
Grossly generalistic. You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. But that other basket of people are people who feel the government has let them down, the economy has let them down, nobody cares about them.
So Donald Trump's campaign co-manager, Kellyanne Conway, reacted with, of course, outrage. Is it real outrage or fake? I don't know. But she posted to Twitter over the weekend about these comments that one day after promising to be aspirational and uplifting, Hillary insults millions of Americans. Listen, I believe Hillary Clinton's comment was completely unfair. 50% of Donald Trump supporters are not part of the basket of deplorables. It's more like 45% of Trump supporters that are in the basket of deplorables. The rest are some combination of incompetent or lacking mental capacity. In all seriousness, this is a mistake politically, okay? You go after your opponent. You don't go after their supporters because ideally, you want their supporters to come and vote for you. Now, Hillary Clinton may feel that by distinguishing between the 50% that are in the basket of deplorables for their racism and xenophobia and whatever else, and the 50% who are just frustrated with the system, that she is still going to be able to appeal to the 50% that are frustrated with the system. I don't know about that. I believe this was undoubtedly a strategic mistake. You were sort of throwing in the towel on 50% of Trump supporters if you are indeed right that they are in that basket of deplorables. But I want to propose to you something else. I don't think Hillary Clinton is wrong about what she is saying. Longtime friend of the show, Greg Stevens, who I had the opportunity to catch up with on the phone recently, laid it out this way on his Facebook page. And it's really, really great. And I put together a graphic to basically explain to you what Hillary Clinton is saying. How many people did Hillary Clinton insult? Well, let's go through the numbers. Her statement was 50% of Trump supporters are part of the basket of deplorables. Okay. 2012 voter turnout was 57.5%. The Donald Trump national support as of this morning, September 12th, 2016, is 42.9%. And Hillary Clinton's allegation is that 50% of Trump supporters are deplorable. If we do basic math and say, well, about 57.5% of the country votes, and 42.9% of those voters are expected to vote for Donald Trump based on polling today, and half of them are supposedly deplorable, we're talking about 12.33% of the electorate. This is barely more than 1 out of 10 voters that Hillary Clinton claims are part of this basket of deplorables based on their racism and misogyny and xenophobia. It's pretty low. I have to tell you, I think Hillary Clinton has underestimated these numbers. I don't think there is anything inaccurate about what Hillary Clinton is saying. We all know, if we have any connection to the real world, that 1 out of 10 voters, slightly more than 1 out of 10 voters, are absolutely part of that uninformed, low information, retrograde fringe, be it for racist or xenophobic or misogynistic views, be it for their completely retrograde, religious conservative views that have absolutely no connection to reality. I think there is nothing wrong with the math of what Hillary Clinton is saying, but it was definitely a political mistake because it has made headlines for days now. Donald Trump gets an opportunity to respond. It's Trump who is supposed to be making these mistakes and everybody else capitalizing on it. This was a mistake for Hillary Clinton. The wording was not good, but it's going to be real tough for you to find numbers that prove to me that Hillary Clinton is even remotely overestimating her case here. If anything, she is underestimating it. You know what it's time to talk about. I got the tweets. I got the emails. David, you're not going to talk about the Hillary health situation. You're not going to talk about Hillary Clinton seemingly collapsing and her feet seemingly going completely limp and her having to be carried into a vehicle after a 9/11 memorial event yesterday. I am going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about whether progressives need to rethink the Hillary health issue. Let's just talk through it. Over the weekend, Hillary Clinton had what is being described, was described initially as a health episode at a 9/11 memorial event. As you know, there has been this narrative from some on the right for a while. Hillary is very ill. Hillary is unhealthy. Alex Jones talking about an injector that some Secret Service guy is carrying around. Let's start to take a look at the video of what took place yesterday, and I'll sort of talk us through it. Hillary Clinton reportedly overheated at this 9/11 memorial event, and as you can see here, if you're watching, basically seeming unable to stay on her feet. Okay, and at one point you actually see her feet. It's almost like the toes of her feet are dragging, and it seems like she is completely not under her own power. And I have to tell you that the narrative around the explanation for what happened here is not hugely convincing to me. You know, I call it like I see it. I am not the type of person who is going to say that there is nothing or there is something or whatever merely because of the political implications. The initial claim was Hillary Clinton was overheated. It was in the low 80s in New York City. It's possible that someone would be overheated at that temperature, but is it hugely likely? I don't know. The story then was that Hillary Clinton was brought to Chelsea Clinton's apartment in New York City, and not too long after that, before too much time went by, she left and was asked how she felt, and she said she feels great, that she feels great. It's sort of quick to be feeling great, but okay, let's move on. Later, we are told by Hillary Clinton's doctor that she has pneumonia. Was she really feeling great if she had pneumonia? Would pneumonia cause you to collapse in a way where your feet reverse under you and you have to be carried completely not under your own strength? I don't know the answer to that. The explanation from the doctor was that Hillary Clinton was diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday, 2 days before this video was taken, put on antibiotics, and advised to rest and modify her schedule. This is according to a statement by Dr. Lisa Bardak. The explanation about the acute incident that took place yesterday was that Hillary Clinton was overheated and dehydrated, that she was examined by Dr. Bardak. She has rehydrated and has recovered nicely, although she will be canceling plans today and tomorrow on the West Coast. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I have been reading every medical opinion on this, and of course, just looking at 25 seconds of video does not tell you definitively what the diagnosis is, and the explanations from doctors are quite mixed. There appears to be something very acutely wrong during this 25-second video that we played for you a bunch of times. Is this what some describe as walking pneumonia, where you do have an infection, you are on antibiotics, but by and large, you can get through your day and you feel okay, but there can be an acute incident where someone could completely be unable to move under their own power? I don't know. And I'm being totally upfront with the audience that I don't know what is going on here. I think that absolutely the overblown conspiracy theories about Secret Service walking around with injectors, as Alex Jones has claimed, no, I'm absolutely not there. But am I feeling like the explanation here isn't adding up? Absolutely. And as usual, this could just be bad handling of the situation by Hillary's team, right? The idea that, oh, well, let's just say that this was absolutely nothing and she overheated and didn't feel well. But then we're actually going to come out and say that it's pneumonia, and maybe it was pneumonia all along, but they didn't mention it until she had an acute incident because they thought, because of the conspiracy theories, if we come out and say on Friday Hillary has pneumonia, it's going to put even more attention on an issue that we're trying to distract from. I don't know the answer, but it was very, very poorly handled by the Hillary Clinton team. It's possible that this is just pneumonia, that this is just walking pneumonia, and the combination of the emotion of this 9/11 event and the 83-degree heat and a very, very active campaign schedule and the pneumonia and the antibiotics all together led to Hillary Clinton being seemingly unable to exhibit locomotion under her own power. I don't know. I don't know the answer. But what I am absolutely sure of is that now the Hillary health story is no longer in the fringes of mainstream corporate media and mostly right-wing media. This now is a mainstream story. I anticipate all of the major networks will be talking about this tonight, and it's not good for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Whatever is the objective truth about Hillary Clinton's health, the video combined with the changed narrative from the Clinton campaign as to what happened here, or maybe not changed, but narrative where the pieces don't quite add up, it's not going to be good for Hillary Clinton.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Today's new member of the day is Jason Melton. I want to send a huge thank you to Jason. I don't want to spend too much time talking about membership because I've got something to tell you about a little later in the show related to that. Suffice it to say, davidpakman.com/membership is the only place that you can sign up for a membership, which is the number one way to support the show. Let me talk about something interesting. I sometimes mention if you ever shop on Amazon.com, there's a way in which your shopping can support the work that we do. And the way to do that is by going to davidpakman.com/Amazon, and then you will be sent to Amazon.com, and any shopping you do will send us a little kickback. The most expensive item of the week purchased by our viewers over the last 7 days was a $454 cargo box for the roof of a car. And it's funny that this was an item because just over the weekend, I was driving back to Western Massachusetts, and there was just insane traffic on the Mass Turnpike, Highway 90, which sometimes happens. And after something like an 18 or 20 minute slowdown, it turned out that one of these cargo boxes had seemingly taken flight off of the roof of a car and exploded in the middle of the turnpike, splitting in half and leaving clothing and all sorts of different stuff all over the turnpike. And I wonder, on some level, if that was the box purchased by a David Pakman Show viewer at some point in the last week, which caused my traffic delay over the weekend. Probably not, but a coincidence nonetheless. And the most unusual item I spotted on the list of items purchased through Amazon over the last week, somebody bought 15 regular wired phones, the kind that mount on the wall or sit on a desk. the fact that somebody bought so many of them, it's unclear if it's actually for like a really big house or maybe for an office or more likely for an art project, because at this point, those wired phones are really becoming relics of the past. I was thinking, how many people do I know for whom I have a home number? Almost nobody at this point. Although many of those people maybe have a home number, but they don't give it to anybody. I have not had a home number for a very, very long time. I'd be curious to hear from the audience. Do you still have what is considered to be a landline? And why? Do you see yourself getting rid of it? Remember, davidpakman.com/Amazon is the way to support the show with the Amazon shopping that you do. Okay, here's something very cool that is going on. We did a big giveaway a while back of 32 gigabyte David Pakman Show USB flash drives. The company that made these drives really wants us to do another giveaway. So they said, hey, David, we're going to send you 8 more of those 32 gigabyte USB flash drives for free. Now, this is very, very nice of them to do, but I don't need any of these 8 32 gigabyte David Pakman Show flash drives. We have plenty of flash drives here for the work that we do. So I'm going to give them away to you. Okay. And here's how it's going to work. This is super, super simple. If you want a free 32 gigabyte David Pakman Show USB flash drive, the first 8 people to sign up for a yearly membership with a particular coupon code will get not only the USB flash drive for free, but also a 20% discount off of your membership. Shipping is included if you live in the United States. If you live outside the US, shipping, we have to pay for that shipping additionally, so that is going to be extra. The coupon code is, and I would encourage you to write this down, flash drive 32. No spaces, all one word, flash drive 32. Because we have 8 flash drives, the code will work 8 times, and it will only work for yearly memberships. So the process is you go to davidpakman.com/membership. You pick any price yearly membership you want. Doesn't matter. Any yearly membership qualifies. You click sign up. And on the next page that comes up, you will see a coupon code field. You enter flash drive 32. It'll subtract 20% from your membership price, and it will allow us to send you a flash drive for free. We'll reach out to you after you sign up to get your mailing address. Don't worry about that. Let's do this thing. I don't anticipate that these are going to last too long. There's a major Hillary Clinton story other than this health situation, which is becoming a bigger and bigger story, that is basically being blacked out by corporate media. Corporate media all over the Hillary collapsing, fainting, having an overheated and dehydrated moment yesterday at a 9/11 memorial event, but completely ignoring the fact that the entire basis for the recent pay-to-play allegations involving the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, the entire basis of that is a tweet from the Associated Press. That tweet has been deleted because the Associated Press determined that it was not a good tweet. The tweet from more than 2 weeks ago said, as you may remember, more than half of those who met with Clinton as cabinet secretary gave money to the Clinton Foundation. That is part of the original tweet. Of course, we looked into this, others have looked into this, and it immediately fell apart, but that never mattered. The right-wing media machine continued to repeat, pay to play. More than half of those who met with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State were donors to the Clinton Foundation. Countless right-wingers and Hillary bashers said, look, it's the Associated Press. They are serious. They are trustworthy. We can depend on what they say. Well, the Associated Press now says, we cannot depend on what they said. They have deleted the tweet. You won't hear that on the Rush Limbaugh Show. Let's take a look at a quote from the Associated Press. This is from John Daniszewski. He is the Associated Press Vice President for Standards, saying the Associated Press today is deleting a 2-week-old tweet about Hillary Clinton's meetings as cabinet secretary after concluding the tweet fell short of AP standards by omitting essential context. At the same time, we are revising our practices to require removal and correction of any AP tweets found not to meet AP standards, including tweets that contain information that is incorrect, misleading, unclear, or could be interpreted as unfair or having a problem in tone. Ladies and gentlemen, the tweet has been retracted. Why was it bogus to begin with? Well, the AP analysis focused only on what are called discretionary meetings with people who are not part of the US federal government, who are not representatives or parts of foreign governments, who likely are the majority of the people that Hillary Clinton met with as Secretary of State. This is like if you go shopping, right? And you say, okay, I bought all my food, and then you report 50% of the food I bought is bad. It was rancid. I got it at the local grocery store. 50% of the food I got was bad. The grocery store is bad. And then it turns out that really 50% of the bananas you bought are bad, right? 50% of the bananas, which make up a tiny little portion of your total grocery shopping, but it's never retracted. Media keeps saying, don't go to that grocery store because 50% of all the food that Joe bought is bad, when the reality is that it's 50% of the bananas. That's the analogy for what happened here. The allegation is 50% of the discretionary meetings that Hillary Clinton had were with individuals who at some point donated to the Clinton Foundation. And I'm going to be very, very upfront with you here. Melinda Gates is someone that Hillary Clinton met with who donated to the Clinton Foundation. Melinda Gates is one of the most prominent philanthropists in the US, if not the world at this point, along with her husband, Bill Gates. Is it really that shocking or disturbing that she had a meeting with Hillary Clinton and also was a donor to the Clinton Foundation? It sort of makes perfect sense when you look at a lot of the individual names here. So, you know, I am no Hillary Clinton cheerleader. She is far more conservative than I am. I have serious, serious concerns about her hawkish policies and ideas on some issues related to the Middle East. I believe we should have a $15 minimum wage instead of 12, as she has said. This is not about me saying I love all of Hillary Clinton's policies. This is about the fact that there is a total blackout on the reality that the tweet on which much of this controversy was based has been deleted and retracted because the source, the AP, said it does not meet our standards, period. I don't know if you're going to hear that later today on any right-wing media or even corporate media. We'll take a break. I'm on Twitter at @dpacman.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
It's great to be joined today by Vincent Hendricks, who's the author of INFOSTORMS, available a bit later this week, and founder of the Center for Information and Bubble Studies. Joining me today, I believe from Copenhagen, Denmark. Is that right?
Indeed, David, indeed.
So I'm super interested in the way in which technology is sort of shaping the way that even as humans, as Homo sapiens, we are taking in information. And I'd love to just very generally, since this is an area of your expertise, open it up to you for people who maybe haven't considered this. Give us some examples of how modern technology is really allowing humans to take in information in a very different way than what's been the norm in human history.
Well, information is no longer a scarcity. That's one thing we got enough of, right? So the information age has brought us vast amounts of information. But as Mitchell Kapoor, who started Lotus Development Group, once said, getting information off the web is like taking a drink from a fire hydrant. So once you open it up, it just basically starts pouring. And so the issue is, are we properly curating the information that we're using? And why is information important to us? Well, it's important to us because information is something we use to act, deliberate, and just consider things by. And so from that perspective, it's extremely central to us as human beings, just basically to navigate in the world, that we have information. But the problem with information per se is information doesn't have to be truthful. So rumors, for instance, well, you could run with a rumor. You might even act on a certain rumor, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this particular rumor has anything to do with the truth. And humans are sort of suckers to the truth. It's important to us because that's basically the information that we really want to make our decisions based upon. So there are many examples where rumors or hearsays or hoaxes online may actually get amplified to proportions that we've never seen. So for instance, in 2013...
Let me pause there and say, I agree with everything you're saying, but let me push back in one way, which is I'm not hearing anything that is unique due to modern technology in a particular sense. I don't know if you've read James Gleick's book, The Information. And
Sure.
in it, he has this great example where he says, you know, when you think about it, all of the sort of potential pitfalls of information that exist today, adjusted for better technology, existed at the beginning of mankind. For example, when we had different tribes communicate with each other over long distances with drums, where a predetermined message, a drumming pattern, would communicate safety or danger. There's food here or there's no food here, whatever. Even back then, you could have that communication spoofed by someone wishing to send a tribe the wrong message. And you could have that communication sort of intercepted in the way that the NSA can intercept today. So are we talking about different equipment or has anything fundamentally changed?
Well, I mean, so all the pitfalls that we've had before, we still have those. The only thing is that the information age, the internet, social media, and other things are actually able to amplify certain phenomena beyond proportions that we've ever seen before. So say like lemming effects, where everybody is thinking the same thing about the same thing because apparently everybody else is doing so. Pluralistic ignorance, where we believe that everybody believes because that's what we think that our immediate surroundings will think. So basically what I'm trying to say is that it's not like we are talking about particularly new phenomena, but what we are talking about is that those particular phenomena that could derail reason and rationality have been amplified beyond things that we have never seen before, and on global reach and at the speed of light. And those phenomena are sort of new insofar as to say the amplification we have never seen to this extent. Nor can we say that we have seen rumors being able to go global, worldwide, et cetera, and actually have repercussions in many different parts of the world way away from where they were actually started up. So, for instance, you can crash stock markets with a rumor that started one place and ended up in another place. So from that perspective, no, you're right. These things are not new, but they're amplified to proportions never seen before.
So this gets me into something I'm super interested in, which is also an area that you really concentrate, which is considering what should a more modern approach to sort of epistemology, justifying our beliefs, understanding how to interpret information and distinguish in order to sort of at the micro level not fall victim to hoaxes and rumors, as you say, but big picture, critical thinking in sort of the modern age. So I would love it if you could tell in a way that would maybe appeal both to people who have done some formal critical thinking coursework, but also to people who haven't. What's the best way to approach justifying our beliefs in the modern technological age?
Okay, so that's a very good question. Now, of course, all the standard procedures that we already know are from epistemology are still in play. But once that's being said, which is probably a little alien, at least to standard epistemology, is that group thinking and group reasoning, all of a certain, is a very central part in the way we make decisions. Now, one of the issues that we have found, and that social psychology have found in particular, is that we can be individually rational but collectively dense, simply because we actually get to interpret the signals that we get from others in unfortunate ways. That's, for instance, the way bystander effects often happen, right? So I see somebody falling, I'm in doubt as to whether or not this person is in need of help. So instead of actually going over and asking, what I will do is I will look at my immediate surroundings. And if the people in the immediate surroundings are just as uncertain as I am, then the problem is that I get a signal from them that they'll be standing and waiting, and I can't interpret that as to whether they decided not to help or they're waiting around. And then I will do nothing, and then everybody will do nothing. So what I will say here is that the way in which we collectively process information by the signals that we get from others, those are the things that we have to be very aware of in the modern information age. Also because much of the reasoning that we do collectively or in networks or from signals that we get from our various networks. And from that perspective, that's a particular concern that we have to worry about. So to start answering your question, we have to be aware that there are certain collective pitfalls that we can make once we start reasoning together. And one of the big ones is that I'm uncertain as to what I think other people believe. So instead of actually necessarily checking, because that might be hard, I'll make certain assumptions about that. They will make certain assumptions in the same way. And if we, in an unfortunate way, get to make assumptions about each other that would actually bar us from getting to the correct answer, had we cooperated instead, had we started getting more information, had we started asking each other, is that really your opinion on this issue? Then we might actually get into the collective pitfalls in new and very unfamiliar, but in a potentially devastating ways. So don't only ask yourself what your argument for a certain stance is. Also ask yourself why other people should actually follow your argument. So not only what your argument is, but why people should follow it. And once you're done with that, then start asking yourself, well, what sort of information should I actually use? So I should worry about sources that agree with my position. I should worry about sources that do not agree with my position. And then I should finally worry about sources that are neutral as a function of what I agree with and what I disagree with, and then I triangulate, and then I get information. Now, it's going to be very hard to get out of your office and out of bed in the morning when you read the paper like that if you want to get information enough for you to make rational decisions. But what we need are gatekeepers and curators of truthful information. And the web can actually stimulate that if we start triangulating procedures and if we insist not only that people have positions or stances or point of view that they can get out on Twitter, but also why. And in such a way that it's transparent what sort of premises goes into which arguments that people apparently follow.
When we sort of think about the state, at least here in the US, in terms of encouraging this type of critical thought, understanding logical fallacies and just everyday arguments, realizing the difference between an explanation for a belief and a justification for a belief, which are very, very different things. It's a pretty sad state of affairs as far as this goes, at least here in the US. And unfortunately, it's become very politicized, as I'm sure you know, where there are actually political groups that are against the type of that type against the teaching of that type of critical thought. So how can we push back against that? Because if everybody had, I believe, this sort of foundation of critical thinking and epistemology from a relatively young age, we wouldn't have this constant fear that the uninformed will decide an election, for example, that type of thing. But I'm sort of not particularly optimistic that it's something we can change in a big way.
Well, basically, what Aristotle said was that you have to obey the principle of non-contradiction. You can't just contradict yourself and still be meaningful. And even to the ones who may be post-factual about facts, they have to at least acknowledge that they can't say it's both that and not that and one at the same time. And so from that perspective, it still goes to show that the principle of non-contradiction is very central to us, even if you argue for a post-factual age, if for no other reason that if you do not accept it, then you're not making much sense one way or the other, independently of who you are. So the principle of non-contradiction is not a political stance or a political project. It's basically a way in which our mind either understands or does not understand when you say things are P and not P and what at the same time. And from that perspective, this has to do with our foundation of rationality, and that has nothing to do with politics.
All right, Vincent Hendricks, author of INFOSTORMS, available very, very soon this week. Also founder of the Center for Information and Bubble Studies. Really appreciate speaking with you today.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Bo sent me a sort of an update to the systematically scammy nature of Donald Trump's claims about charitable donations. You might remember, number one, the Washington Post did a really good investigation into Trump's claimed donations and his actually provable donations. And it appears as though he only donated around $10,000, dating back to many, many years, very contrary to the claims that Donald Trump has made about charitable donations. After that happened, Donald Trump actually did a donation on stage at a campaign event, which appears to have possibly violated a variety of different laws, including federal election law, laws around nonprofits and charitable giving, et cetera, et cetera. We have now learned that the reality is, as are most things with Donald Trump, way worse than we thought. It's more pathetic than we thought. It's more embarrassing than we previously thought. The Washington Post's David Fahrenthold reached out to many of the charities that Donald Trump claims to have donated to on his IRS submissions and said, hey, Donald Trump says that he donated to you. Did Donald Trump donate to you? Pretty simple question. And that Donald Trump did not, let me say it a different way. Not only did Donald Trump not donate recently to some of these organizations, according to many of them, he has never donated to them. I will put up on the screen for you here David Farenthold's tweet, where you actually see his notebook where he wrote down some of these organizations and just started calling them. And you'll note that many of them say never next to them. The Border Patrol Foundation, the New York Pops, the National Children's Dental Foundation, Alzheimer's Community Care. Trump says that he donated to these organizations. These organizations say, no, we didn't. No, he didn't, rather. And if you say, well, Trump doesn't really have a track record of this, you're wrong. You may not have heard, but Donald Trump has been forced to pay a $25,000 IRS fine over a $25,000 donation that his foundation made to Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi before she, as I've told you, conveniently dropped that investigation into Trump University. In that case, Trump not only used his supposedly charitable foundation to push money to a political campaign, he also said that he was actually donating to a charity, which we now know never actually got the money. This is absolutely despicable. This is despicable on a number of levels. Number one, we're learning more and more about how, although Donald Trump is accusing Hillary Clinton of being involved in pay-to-play, he really is the guy who has been involved in pay-to-play demonstrably and has actually been fined for that. But beyond that, one of the lowest things that you can do is to claim that you are raising money for a charity and you never actually give the charity the money. One of the lowest things that you can do is claim that you are giving a charity money and not actually give them the money. And this is not the only time that Donald Trump has done this. Donald Trump has a very long track record of, number one, claiming to make donations that appear absolutely nowhere in terms of the actual financial records of these organizations, but also using this foundation as a way to curry political capital. Think about it for a second. The primary purpose of the Trump Foundation is not charity. It's sort of the exact same thing Donald Trump has done his entire life. It's about enriching himself. And the sickest part of it all, and I know that there are some people in the audience who just hate Hillary Clinton so much, they're not going to, this example, this analogy is not going to resonate with them. But think about it. Donald Trump has been accusing Hillary Clinton of running a pay-to-play scheme through the Clinton Foundation, where you donate to the Clinton Foundation, and then Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, would meet with you. You would get favors from the State Department, or you would get a contract or whatever. We know that for many, many years, Donald Trump gave no money at all to his own foundation, but other people did. And then the foundation's money was used for Trump's personal business gain, greasing the wheels or whatever else. The donors to the Trump Foundation are either, number one, knowing that Donald Trump is actually using this charity to curry political favor and do deals and whatever else. If the donors to the Trump Foundation know that that's what he's doing, they are the ones who are complicit in this pay-to-play. If they don't know that that's what Donald Trump is doing with the money, They are being defrauded. If you donated to the Donald J. Trump Foundation with the idea that he's really going to be helping all of these great charities that he claims to be helping, and in reality, he's been using the money to make investigations about Trump University go away. He's been putting donations on his IRS disclosures without actually having made those donations. If I was a donor to the Trump Foundation and didn't realize that that's what he was doing, I would be furious with Trump. Yet another way in which Donald Trump accuses others of doing exactly what it is that he is actually doing. And I wish I could say, oh, well, now his supporters are going to figure out that this is what he's doing, and they're going to be really, really angry. Probably not. They really don't seem to care. Let's talk a little bit about economics. There is this general Republican economic fear-mongering that exists in many areas. So, for example, the right will tell you if you don't cut taxes for the rich, or if you raise them, really bad things will happen. Well, no, actually, trickle-down economics makes no sense. We've debunked it many, many times. If you raise the minimum wage reasonably, not to $200 an hour, but reasonably, it's going to kill jobs. Well, no, actually, we've seen that in San Francisco County, even within the fast food sector, the minimum wage has been raised above and beyond what is actually required by the state of California. It has had no negative impact on jobs. And we heard from the right that if you pass paid sick leave, jobs will be killed. Well, the great thing is we now have data about this. In 2013, the New York City Council decided to go against what then Mayor Michael Bloomberg wanted, and they passed something called the Earned Sick Time Act. In 2014, under Mayor Bill de Blasio, the law was expanded to cover all businesses with at least 5 workers, as opposed to just 15 workers as previously required. The initial passage of this law and its modification in 2014 were both fear-mongered about by the right-wingers, saying this is going to kill jobs. This will prevent jobs in New York City from being created. Well, we now have several years of data to look at to see if the prediction was true. I'm going to cut to the punchline for you. It wasn't true. According to a new paper from the Center for Economic and Policy Research, mandatory paid sick time was basically a non-event, even though more than 3 in 4 employees at the surveyed firms made use of paid sick leave in 2005. What is underlying this? Well, there are a number of really, really interesting findings. Number one, workplace illness, big picture, is actually not a big problem, right? So by giving employees paid sick leave, because employee illness is not a huge issue, fortunately, it actually didn't really impact hiring. It didn't really impact businesses in a negative way. Number two, most employers already offer paid sick leave without having been required to do so by the law. So most companies, the law changes and says you now have to offer paid sick leave. Most companies say, well, we were already doing that. It doesn't affect us at all. And lastly, and this actually isn't good, the study determined that workers go to work sick just as often when you have paid sick leave as when you don't. And that's actually a really bad thing. You don't want your employees coming in sick. Forcing people to come into work sick is a bad idea all the way around. They get other employees sick. They will work below their productivity because they are ill. They're going to prolong their illness rather than be resting. So very, very interesting data here. The highlight for me is the Republican economic fear-mongering did not come true, and that has sort of become expected in many ways. But the other interesting aspect of this, that whether or not you have mandatory paid sick time, employees come to work, and they will come to work sick in many cases, and that is actually not a good thing. Okay, real quick, I've got a voicemail to play for you today. That number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Any time of day you can call. Here is a voicemail about me and talk show host Stephanie Miller. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, you and Stephanie Miller, y'all are kind of nutty. I mean, y'all don't have anybody from a Republican point of view.
Okay.
You know, I don't even know how you're on the air, or Stephanie Miller. I think y'all are both idiots. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. All right, on the bonus show today, Airbnb has new anti-discrimination rules. We will talk about those. A paralyzed pregnant woman wearing a bionic suit has completed a half marathon. And we have yet more bad news. I mean, is there ever really good news out of the diamond industry? I say no, but we have even more bad news out of the diamond industry on today's bonus show. Sign up at davidpakman.com/membership and get instant access to the bonus show.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.